Hi all, Mary Bulger here, Naturalist with Iowa County Conservation, and I want to welcome you to our next virtual wild edibles program. Today we are going to be talking and learning about the currant, which is the red currant actually, a very tart little red berry, and then we're going to make a yogurt cake, red currant yogurt cake today. So I'm just gonna quickly go over some of the materials that you're going to be needing and some of the tools you're going to be needing. We'll mix everything together, get it in the oven, and then I'll kind of share some neat facts about the red currant and look at some of the structure of the plant and learn a little bit more about it. So I'm going to grab my camera here and switch the camera around so you can see everything that we're going to be needing today. So you're going to be needing 1.5 hour. I use gluten-free flour, or any flour alternative would work too, or regular all-purpose flour. You're going to need a sugar, and you can also use a sugar substitute if you prefer. You're going to need at least a cup of these beautiful red currants. I have a little bit more than a cup here because I really like them in this recipe. You're going to need a 1/2 cup of plain yogurt. You're going to need some vegetable or canola oil, about 1/2 cup of that. You're going to need 3 large eggs. You're going to need some salt, and then also some baking powder. And then I have some various tools here because you're going to have to whisk some things as well as scoop some things into your tin. And then you need your large mixing bowl. And I am using a muffin tin today. Recipe is is a little tiny cake. So there are pans out there. I don't have one of the fancy pans for this recipe, but it looks like a big muffin tin, but you have little square cakes. If you have one of those, you can use that, or you can also use a muffin tin as well. Both of them work pretty well. You'll adjust the time just a little bit, and I'll talk about that when we get to that time. So I'm gonna just go ahead and get started mixing things together and get our batter mixed together. So I'm gonna kind of turn my camera a little bit. So first thing you want to do is mix your dry ingredients together. You're gonna take your flour, your 1.5 cups of flour, and you are going to, oh, I'm sorry, did the wrong thing first. We're gonna put my flour back. We need to mix the eggs and the wet ingredients first. So go back to the beginning. So we are going to, in a large bowl, we're gonna whisk together our yogurt, our sugar, eggs, and oil. So I'm just gonna go ahead and break up my eggs first here. And get those whisking. So we got our 3 eggs, and then we are going to take our yogurt, our 1/2 cup of yogurt, get that in there. And we're going to take our oil. So we need a 1/2 cup of vegetable or canola oil. I'm using vegetable oil today. Mix that in there. And then we're going to also add our sugar. Or sugar substitute, whatever you're using. So then you're going to whisk those things together until smooth. And these mix together and whisk together really easily. So you're gonna have a really kind of loose and liquid batter. All right, so I'm gonna give you a peek at what this batter looks like now. So it kind of looks like egg whites that's just a little bit thicker. So we got most of our mixed together here. And now we're going to add some of our other dry ingredients. So now is time to add the flour. Kind of sprinkle that in there. And you are going to add your salt. So we're going to need 1/4 of a teaspoon of salt in there. And then you're going to put in also your baking. So you're going to use a teaspoon of baking powder. All right. So now we're just going to mix this together. You can use a large spoon or a mixing spoon, whatever you prefer to mix your mixture together with, until all of the dry ingredients are kind of soft or mixed in well. Now at this point, the recipe that I have has you putting your currants on top of your cakes after you get them in your pan. And so that makes a really pretty kind of decorative top there. But if you want to, you can also mix them in here. The currant is a little bit of a soft and squishy berry, so you need to be a little bit careful when you can fold them in gently if you want some currants in the actual cake, or you can just sprinkle them on top. I think I'm going to sprinkle those on top. It makes for a really pretty top. All right. So let's take a look at our batter here. You can see that it's all of the flour and everything really, and it looks like a nice smooth batter. And so next I'm gonna put it in my muffin tin. It's a cake. We made a cake batter, but I don't have one of those pans that have the little mini cakes, so muffin tin will work just fine as well. Is use a bigger teaspoon or a bigger serving spoon and spoon this batter into my muffin tin. And the amount of batter that you have works out just almost perfectly for a 12 muffin tin, a large muffin tin. So when you're filling your batter, you want to fill it about halfway to 3/4. This recipe does rise a little bit, but not too much. So don't fill them completely full. Just about half to 3/4 of the way. And before you put your batter in, you stick spray to put into your muffin tins, or you can also use the paper muffin liners if you prefer that. Keep them from sticking to the side. Almost there. All right. So as we're cooking here, the one thing that I really like about this platform, this Facebook Live platform, is it is a live and interactive platform. So if you're out there and you have any questions about the recipe, the red currant. Go ahead and pop them in the comments and they will come up on screen so I can see them. Or you can just say hi, that's fine too. All right, so we got all of our batter in here. And now I'm going to take my berries and I'm going to top some and put some on the tops of my muffins so it kind of decorates them. And so the red currant is, like I said, a very tart berry, and they're in full fruit right now. They are kind of a soft berry, so they're used for many different things. They're not sweet like your blackberries or your raspberries or strawberries that we have. So I'm putting about a full kind of tablespoon scoop on each one, which is a little bit more than the recipe calls for, but again, I really like these berries. So it adds a really nice touch to the, it's not an overly sweet cake, but a really nice tartness to the cake. So we're going to take a look and see what our cakes look like. So I have 12 right here, and I think they just look gorgeous already. Wait till they are cooked a little bit more. So I'm going to put these in the oven. I've already preheated the oven to 350, and we're going to stick them in here right now. That I'm using calls for those little mini cakes, and they would normally cook about 30 or so minutes. These are going to be a little bit small, so they're going to be cooking not quite as long. I'm going to set my timer for about 20 minutes here, and we'll take a look at them then. While we're waiting, I'm going to kind of talk a little bit about the currant. I have an example of I kind of did a cutting of the currant that I'm going to talk about here. And then we're going to talk about some different facts about the currant. So here the currant is, or the red currant, I should say, there are different kinds, is a shrubby bush. And so the currant, we can find it here out in the wild. Here at Lake Iowa Park, we have an edible garden, and we have some raised beds, and we grow lots of things here. And we have several of these red currant bushes. And so you can come out here and pick some if you'd like, if you've never tried these before. Here's just a cutting. It's about 1.5 feet long that I cut off. Normally, these bushy shrubs can grow 3 to 4 feet tall, and they're your typical kind of rounded shrubby shape. And you can see, if you look right here, they are have lots of leaves, and then they have lots of berries on them. So these are just some examples of how the berries grow. They're a stem. Look, I'm going to move you out in the light a little bit more. You can see that this one, all of those little ends had berries on them. So one little stem can hold anywhere from 10 to 12 little berries. And so these bushes this year were just loaded with berries. From, that's what we call the long kind of length of the stem here. It can have hundreds of berries on it if it's a good year for it. And then that are pretty kind of unique in shape. If we take a close look at the leaf here, there are 3 lobes, 2 on either side, and then 1 kind of in the middle here. They can vary in size to small like this one, or a little bit larger, and they kind of give some shelter and some cover to the berry. And when it flowers a little bit earlier in the spring, are usually green in color, so they blend in pretty well with the leaves. And they're a pretty early berry. This is still, you know, kind of early berry season. We did the mulberry last time when we had our wild edible series, and so this is just kind of the next one in fruit. There are a few others that are kind of fruiting right now that we might do, black raspberry or the blackberry. We'll see what we have the most of at that time. So this is kind of one stem, what the red currant looks like. So a few other kind of fun and interesting facts about the red currant. It is, I don't know if anyone has ever heard of a berry called the gooseberry, which is another kind of wild edible you can find in woodland areas. That is they are in the same family. They have similar shaped leaves and growth patterns and habits, and they're both pretty tart berries. The gooseberry is just a little bit bigger. It's about the size of I would say a dime, and they are kind of purple in color. When they're green, they're still edible, but they're very, very sour. They're a little bit more tart than the red currant here. So they're in the same family. Gooseberries, currants are in the gooseberry family. So, we talked a little bit about what size and kind of how they grow in the woodlands or woodland edges. And when they are ripe, I'll kind of pick and see if you can see it a little bit closer. Again, remember I said they're pretty squishy, and pretty juicy. They have inside here, in the flesh of the berry, they have a few seeds. They're not quite as seed filled as, let's say, a raspberry or a blackberry, but they have several seeds in there, and pretty tart. So there are many health benefits to eating red currants. So they are full of lots of vitamins and minerals. So things like vitamin C, which is really good and important for you to have, vitamin B and vitamin E, iron, phosphorus, and potassium and magnesium. So those are all important vitamins that we need every day. So some of the health benefits that if you are eating red currants, here's kind of an interesting one. If you have a sunburn, so you're out in the sun, have a sunburn, they are supposed to help with healing of the skin if you eat those. And then they help reduce heart disease and help clear up skin irritations, things like eczema, and they help with inflammation and things like that. So some good benefits of eating the red currant. So these currants are tart, but they are used for many, many different things. When I was doing some research and trying to figure out what I wanted to cook or what I wanted to make for our program here today, I found, of course, your typical jam or jelly, and you can make those things, or syrups. You add a lot of sugar to those kind of things, or some people bake with them. Some people make sorbet or ice cream with them, and some people in some countries, like the United Kingdom and France, they will actually use the currant in different things when they're serving with different kinds of meat dishes. So, or also in custards or other desserts like that. So it's a berry that maybe we don't hear a lot about here in the United States, but you can find it growing out there. And it's a really neat and delicious wild edible, especially if you like those really tart berries. So, I'm going to let you go a little bit early today because our cakes have about 15 more minutes to cook. If you have any questions about the currant, or if you would like to make these red currant cakes, you can tune in and watch the rest of this. I will actually be posting this recipe as soon a little bit after I'm done here, so you can do that recipe. And you can come out to Lake Iowa Park. We have red currants that you can harvest. You can also buy them in the store sometimes too. So let me know if you have any questions about this program or red currants, and also if you have any requests for future Facebook Live Wild Edibles in our Wild Edibles series. I am thinking that in our next installment, because blackberries are going to be in fruit and raspberries too, it'll be either one of those things. So we'll continue on with the berries. Thank you very much for watching today. Have a wonderful weekend.